Some cricketers are remembered because they scored thousands of runs. Some are remembered because they took hundreds of wickets. But only a handful become immortal because they gave the sport moments that will be retold for generations. Ben Stokes belongs to that rarest breed. As he steps away from international cricket, the game does not merely lose one of its finest all-rounders, it says goodbye to one of the greatest competitors the sport has ever known. His career was never defined by statistics alone. It was defined by courage, resilience, and an almost supernatural ability to rise when everything seemed lost. Born on June 4, 1991, in Christchurch, New Zealand, Benjamin Andrew Stokes moved to England as a young boy after his father, Gerard Stokes, accepted a rugby coaching role in Cumbria. Growing up far from the country of his birth, he found his identity on cricket fields where talent met relentless determination. Representing Durham, he quickly established himself as a fearless all-rounder whose aggression was matched only by his desire to win. The cricketing world received its first real glimpse of his extraordinary potential during the 2010 ICC Under-19 World Cup. Against a powerful Indian side featuring future stars like KL Rahul, Mayank Agarwal, Mandeep Singh, Sandeep Sharma and Jaydev Unadkat, Stokes walked in at number 6 and smashed a stunning century from just 88 deliveries before claiming 2 wickets. It was not just a brilliant performance, it was the opening page of a story that cricket would never forget. Like every great story, however, his journey was marked by devastating setbacks. The defining heartbreak came on the night of the 2016 ICC T20 World Cup final in Kolkata. England stood just 6 deliveries away from lifting the trophy. West Indies needed 19 runs. Captain Owen Morgan placed his faith in Ben Stokes, handing him the responsibility of bowling the final over. At the crease stood Carlos Brathwaite. What followed became one of cricket's most unforgettable moments. 4 consecutive deliveries disappeared into the stands. 4 consecutive sixes shattered England's dream. As West Indies celebrated, Stokes stood motionless, overwhelmed by disbelief and heartbreak. His tears became the image that defined England's defeat, and for a time, he carried the unbearable weight of an entire nation's disappointment. Many careers would have been broken forever by that night. Ben Stokes chose a different ending. 3 years later came the greatest redemption arc cricket has ever witnessed. The 2019 ICC Cricket World Cup final between England and New Zealand remains the most dramatic final the sport has ever seen. With England on the verge of defeat, Stokes produced an innings that transcended numbers. His unbeaten 84 was an act of defiance, dragging his team from the edge of despair into a super over. Even there, he walked out first, refusing to hide from pressure. England eventually lifted their first ever ODI World Cup on the boundary count rule, and the man whose tears symbolized defeat in 2016 became the hero who delivered the nation's greatest triumph. Cricket had rarely written poetry more beautiful than that. If 2019 had ended there, it would already have been enough to secure his place among the legends. But only weeks later, Headingley witnessed another miracle. Chasing an impossible 359 against Australia in the Ashes, England collapsed to 286 for 9. The contest seemed over. The Ashes seemed lost. Yet with Jack Leach surviving at one end, Stokes unleashed one of the greatest innings ever played in Test cricket. His unbeaten 135 was more than a century, it was an exhibition of belief that refused to acknowledge defeat. Every boundary carried hope. Every risk carried destiny. By the time England completed the impossible chase, Headingley had become sacred ground in cricket folklore, and Stokes had produced an innings that would live forever. Throughout his career, extraordinary moments followed him wherever he went. His majestic 258 against South Africa in Cape Town showcased his brilliance as a batsman. His breathtaking catches, including unforgettable diving efforts in the slips and spectacular one-handed grabs, reminded the world of his athletic genius. His fiery spells with the ball repeatedly broke partnerships when England needed inspiration the most. There were matches where he won with the bat, others with the ball, and many simply through the force of his belief. Joe Root once nicknamed him Mr. Incredible, and few names have ever suited a cricketer better. Time and again, Stokes accomplished things that seemed beyond human possibility. His influence stretched beyond individual performances. Alongside Brendan McCullum, he transformed England's Test team with the fearless philosophy that came to be known as baseball. It was more than an aggressive style of cricket, it was a declaration that fear had no place in the longest format of the game. Under his leadership, England rediscovered joy, freedom, and the courage to chase victory regardless of the odds. Even after battling injuries, personal struggles, and mental health challenges, he continued to return whenever his team needed him. That resilience became the defining trait of his career. Now, as Ben Stokes walks away, cricket loses far more than a world-class all-rounder. It loses the player who made impossible victories feel believable. The fast bowler charging in when everything seemed hopeless, the middle-order batter who walked into collapsing innings without fear, the leader who inspired an entire generation to embrace courage over caution, those moments now belong to history. An era comes to an end. But legends never truly retire. They simply become stories that every generation tells the next. And the story of Ben Stokes will forever remain one of cricket's greatest epics, a tale of heartbreak, redemption, impossible miracles, and a man who refused to stay down.